Right now, you and I are living in an incarcerated nation. Today, America makes up 5% of the world's population, but close to 25% of the world's incarcerated people, according to the American Psychological Association. Our country has the highest incarceration rate and prison populations in the world, and this has detrimental effects to the lives of those incarcerated, the lives of those around them, and all Americans. Francis T. Cullen writes in an article entitled Correctional Rehabilitation that 1 in 37 adults among us are under some form of correctional supervision. More than 2.1 million Americans are guarded behind jail or prison bars, and nearly 4.7 million are watched on probation or parole. This number continues to skyrocket, as does the rate at which people are reincarcerated after serving a sentence for a previous crime. We do not have to remain an incarcerated nation, however. I believe that our prison population can be reduced by the mass implementation of rehabilitation and education programs in our prisons. First, let me explain to you why our massive prison population and its high rate of recidivism is such an issue. The recidivism rate is the rate at which people are being reincarcerated for another crime after finishing a previous sentence. A 2018 study update by the Bureau of Justice shows us that, on the state level, 5 out of 6 prisoners released ended up reoffending and going back to jail within 9 years of their release. Recidivism rates remain so high in our country for 2 reasons. First, the awful treatment of prisoners in our system can be at worst traumatizing, and even at best will never be able to rehabilitate people to better re-enter society. Abusive treatment from guards, dehumanization, abuse from other prisoners, limited exposure to family and friends, and mentally exhausting punishment like solitary confinement all can be traumatizing for people incarcerated. It can even encourage new or returned substance abuse, violence, or mental health issues once they are released, which can all result in reincarceration soon after their release. Another reason recidivism rates remain high is the lack of opportunities for growth or careers available to incarcerated people. It's very difficult for previously incarcerated people to find jobs, apartments or homes that will rent to them, insurance companies that will insure them, and colleges that will accept them. And this makes going back to a normal life in America after incarceration extremely difficult, if not completely impossible. Because of this, many are forced back into crime, as it is often one of their limited options to make money and support themselves while having a criminal record. Many don't see the point in rehabilitating those in prison, especially if they don't have connections with anyone that has been in the system, and believe that if you are convicted of a crime, you should be in jail and punished. However, this issue is not so cut and dry, and our country's prison system negatively affects all Americans, regardless of your opinions about prison reform. The massive prison population in our country not only affects those arrested, it affects the whole economy of America. Statistics show state-funded prisons cost our government an average of $36,000 per year for each inmate the prison system houses. The NAACP states on its website that 80 billion taxpayer dollars are spent in our current prison system, accounting for 1 out of every 15 general fund discretionary dollars. This cycle continues to cost the American taxpayer and redirects funds that could be impacting and bettering the whole community. The California Legislative Analyst's Office concluded in a report from 2017 that direct fiscal benefits from reducing recidivism included reduced incarceration rates, as offenders will not return to prison, as well as reduced crime victim assistance costs. Indirect benefits could include reduced costs for public assistance, as some offenders may receive job training that leads to employment, thereby reducing the level of public assistance needed. In addition to the economic costs that our prison system creates, the need to reform is clear when you look at the ineffectiveness of our current system in reducing crime. Prisons exist first and foremost to cut down on crime, and while they do serve their purpose by putting away people who have committed crimes, recidivism rates show that they have no long-term impact on a criminal's behavior and are not effective in preventing crime from occurring, only for severely punishing anyone that has committed a crime. A report put out by the state of Washington in 2007 showed a bleak picture, with a majority of 60 to 70% of offenders that had committed crimes related to drug abuse or distribution, robbery or burglary, and assault being reincarcerated after their initial sentence was over. This shows that most criminals are not going away to jail and coming back better people, but quite the opposite. That jail has very little lasting effect on the actions of offenders and does not, in fact, cut down on the crimes that they are committing. The only effective way to do so is to rehabilitate offenders and give them opportunities to grow from their mistakes and change their ways. So the lack of the prison system is clearly an issue that affects every American and needs a solution. And this is where the importance of rehabilitation programs comes in. Rehabilitation and education programs in prisons are the most proven and successful course of action to lower recidivism rates in our prisons and raise education and employment rates of previously incarcerated people. Rehabilitation is not just used for substance abuse like many perceive it to be, although drug and substance abuse related charges make up a large portion of the people residing in our prison system. However, rehabilitation more refers to the process of offering prisoners the necessary resources that they need to find acceptable ways to channel frustrations, trauma, and mental illness or substance abuse symptoms, and to step back into their communities ready to find jobs and learn valuable skills so that they can earn money and a higher education degree. One article found in the Department of Justice archives lists the many ongoing rehabilitation programs that currently exist, including programs that educate prisoners, help them to rehabilitate or help them to obtain higher education degrees, help them to obtain marketable skills, prioritize mental health, treat substance abuse, and equip them with resources, housing, and vital information that will help them to re-enter society enriched and not likely to return to crime as a last resort. Many more of these programs are being created and implemented every day, and I believe that rehabilitation programs should be implemented into every prison throughout America, and that only then can we reduce our massive prison population and reintroduce those previously incarcerated people back into our society with the necessary tools and support needed to succeed. Recidivism rates do not need to remain high, and our country does not need to remain the incarcerated nation. But in order to change this, we must make massive changes to the system and ensure that incarcerated people are put on a path to better their lives and therefore better the country as a whole. Thank you.